Welcome back to another episode of the Career Evolved podcast. And I'm happy to bring to the table Justin Ward, who has been a big star in this community because of just the massive transition he's done in such a short period of time to go from one family owned company for 20 years to really transitioning into the Baldwin Group now as a senior advisor for benefits. It's just been phenomenal to see the success and just his confidence he's taken this new career journey. So, Justin, thank you for joining and sharing your story.
Oh, happy to join. This is great. Thank you for having me on.
So, tell me about, when we first met and you're about to make this transition, 20 years at one company. I mean, it's all you've known, having to come into one of the probably most competitive job markets in a decade. What was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
Well, there's a lot, thinking about a lot of different things, and it's easy to get distracted when you're going through that type of change. Uh, it was really all I knew, having kind of grown up in a family-run business. My dad was an entrepreneur, and so when he started when I was 11 years old, and I was on the copier and in the mailroom at that time, working for no pay. It's just that's how it works, right? You'd be surprised how much you pick up during in osmosis, the process of osmosis during those formative years. So when you're in a family-run business, it's you're kind of doing everything, right? You're taking out the trash, from doing actuarial math on the back of a napkin at a restaurant with a client. So it's to transition from that to a publicly traded organization with 4,000 colleagues and top 20 insurance brokerages in the US is a huge difference in terms of uh, you know the bandwidth that you now have access to, having kind of gone to the school of hard knocks your entire life.
Absolutely. And I think, most people that are exiting a company after 20 years, it's like you have a big part of your identity in that company. It's all your friends, it's everything you know. So, I mean, I can only imagine there's probably a lot of anxiety and fear that comes with kind of entering the corporate market at that point.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the identity, especially being in a family-run business, right? So it is your identity. That's how you identify. And to transition to out of that takes a lot of work. Uh, and what's interesting is when you it kind of reminds me of that analogy when they did a study on fleas, and they put fleas in a jar, and the fleas would jump like they would jump onto a dog, or if their dog had fleas, the fleas would jump, but they would hit their head on the top of the jar. They would, not their head, but they would collide on the top of the jar. When they took the lid off the jar after hitting their head so many times, they learned that that's as high as they can jump, even though there's a lid and they can jump right out of the jar. And that is something that happens to us. And if you do something long enough, you tend to convince yourself that this is the only way that it can be done. You come up with a million reasons why something won't work, why you can only make a certain amount of money in this business, why you can do X, Y, Z. And if you believe that, that you're kind of limiting your growth. And that happens to a lot of people. It happened to me. And I'm just in a very different situation now.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's just getting to the other side and being in this new market. Like, as you're looking back on this journey, what were some of the things you had to adjust to get to this point where you're confident and really bold with how you're approaching things?
Well, I think you put up with things for so long until they become unmanageable for the lifestyle you want for yourself and for your family. For me, it involved traveling a lot. So my family's business was in Maine. I live in Rhode Island. And I had, when my daughter was born 10 years ago, I was going back and forth 3 days a week. And that's a good, I mean, it's New England is small, but still you're talking 3 hours each way. And to have to continue to do that when she was 8 or 9 years old, that just tends to, and you kind of know what else is out there. At some point, you have to just say, all right, I need to do something else. And loyalty to family and everything else only becomes, you have to decide, all right, which family am I loyal to here? The one that raised me or the one that's mine that I have now that I'm the provider for? So now I work primarily from home and making more money. And I'm present. I coach my daughter's basketball team now, which is great. I would never have been able to do that before.
Wow.
I'm involved. I teach faith formation through the parish. I run the martial arts club through the school, so I'm involved in a lot of local things,
Nice.
board seats, committees that I would never have been able to have the time for just because of the travel situation. And
Wow.
that creates a lot of other things to enjoy.
So not only did you get a breakthrough in your career, but it sounds like you got more alignment and just a more, I think, well-rounded life on the other side of this.
It's so easy to connect the dots in reverse and figure out how you got from point A to point B to point Z. And it's a series of events over time that put you there. But it's really difficult when you're at point A
Yeah.
to see how that's going to unfold. And that's where really understanding your niche and your value and in the job market. And this is a very interesting job market, as we talked about before the call. This is it's really difficult to see that sometimes. But I think now, for me, I kind of bet on myself because I had done everything, and I saw, where all the opportunities were, and I knew that I could do this at a very different level than what's being done in the advisor community. But I don't think that's necessary anymore. With AI, I think people have the ability to specialize in their vertical by just digging in and continuing to drill in how many micro issues exist in that vertical. And then if you are passionate about one of those micro issues in your vertical, you can become an expert on it very quickly and become highly specialized. And that's where I think the riches are in the niches right now. So if you have a specific niche and you understand your vertical and you understand where the problems are and how to solve for that, you are a hot commodity. And that's not everybody gets that.
You're right. You got a specific niche that's very high potential opportunity income, right? And so is that kind of strategically why you chose to focus and go deep, which most people kind of end up bouncing around in industries and are kind of a generalist, right? But for you, you stayed and you went really deep in one niche. Did you make that decision really early to do that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I looked at a lot of different opportunities. Consulting seemed like the best one in terms of lifestyle, opportunity to earn, but also to be highly specialized. Because, as you said, there are a lot of generalists out there, and quite frankly, they're solving problems in the benefits uh, arena that, I mean, those are problems 10 years ago. We got a whole new set of problems now. And you got to really understand how to solve for the new things that are going on, because it's in this healthcare system. This opportunity to make the healthcare system better for employees and their benefit plans. Uh, there's this huge opportunity to do that because there's so much waste. It's 1/5 of the economy, and there's just a lot of uh, middlemen taking money hand over fist where you can kind of cut through all that noise and make the experience better for people. And sometimes it's not that easy to do it unless you had to navigate it from the inside, which I did. But now I think if you continue to drill in and just explore something with artificial intelligence, you can get there a lot faster. And if that's what you're passionate about.
So for you, as you were thinking about like I know you had a big goal and a huge vision when you and I met, and most wouldn't be thinking in that way when you've only been in a family-owned business for 20 years, right? You had the ability to kind of be really visionary with your career, and that's not something most people have that ability to do. Can you talk me through this? Because like obviously I can tell you're very intentional and strategic with everything you do with your career. How did you think about the transition and your goals you were setting around it?
I think it comes back to, for me, it was a lot of how I was raised. So I was raised by an entrepreneur, and if there was a problem to be solved, uh, my dad would try and solve that. And so I kind of that was always my mentality, whether it was this or another, dabbling in other side hustles, believing that you can do it, understanding that you can solve the problem, say, look, I don't know how this is going to work, but one way or another, I'm going to make it work. And if it doesn't, I'm going to do something else and make something else work that people need. That knowing that there's opportunity to improve an area, uh, gave me, in knowing that this area of business, and knowing that this area of business per se, the healthcare business is just starving for improvement. I I kind of bet on myself because I knew that I could at least do what everybody else is doing, plus a little bit more, and really be closer to home, be around a lot more, and then and make more money to, you start a college fund for my daughter, those types of things, which I didn't really have before. So I kind of just looked at my priorities and said, all right, um, where do you want to be in 5 years? If you keep going down this path, are you going to be there? And I was not. So uh, luckily, you and I got to talk, and here I am.
So I know like it was interesting because you hadn't been on the job market for 20 years. So coming in, thinking about how to sell, position, market yourself as a product is, I think, a different world than it was 20 years ago, right? So for you to come in and what did you have to evolve to get this done? Let's talk through that.
Sure. Well, kind of everything, right? Because remember, I had to come into I didn't interview for my previous job, right?
True.
Because I was 11 and I knew the owner. So
Oh, wow. Oh my
yeah,
God.
so yeah, it was my dad, right? So I was working
Yes.
with my dad. I mean, I had other jobs. I was a high school English teacher. I had to interview for that, and I had a job right out of college where I swore I would never be in this business, but here I am. Uh, there's a lot of that was brand new to me. But I had been in sales before. All right, so I understood how to sell. And a lot of what I learned with Career Evolve is you're just selling yourself in this capacity as opposed to selling a health insurance policy, or you're really identifying where you specialize. You know where the value is, you know what's needed. So a lot of the things that I was talking about in my interviews, and there were a lot of them, were the same things that I was talking about as if I were talking with a potential client, because I knew that the companies that I was interviewing with needed somebody like me to ask those questions to their clients. So it was really very similar process, the interview, as opposed to a sales meeting. But it's a little bit different when you're talking about yourself and negotiating your salary and benefits and stock options and all of those things. As that was brand new for me, which you were very helpful in that process too.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of folks have fear around negotiations because they don't want to kill the deal or lose the opportunity. And so, as you think, I'm sure you're always doing negotiations all the time with the work you're doing. How do you think about negotiating now, even as you're evolving with this process?
That's traditionally for me something I haven't been very skilled at doing.
Okay.
If I were to go buy a car, I'd have my wife go in there and haggle. And usually, and on several occasions, they offered her a job. because she's so good at that.
That's
She's
funny.
because she's willing to walk away. And for me, I probably would have walked out with the deluxe package and paid twice as much. But so negotiating was never a strong suit for me. Um, but you know, in fairness, understanding where you are in terms of your value and what's needed in your niche, that gives you a lot more leverage, which I knew I had after going through the final negotiations with the Baldwin Group and agreement on everything from salary and benefits to stock and everything else. Having kind of seen what else is out there in the interview process with other competing companies, I realized, okay, we can land at some middle ground here where everybody's comfortable because I understand my value in a way now that I probably didn't before.
Absolutely. I think it's a big shift to start to think about value, how to position, and thinking less about job descriptions and qualifications. So that's something you picked up on pretty early, but I think a lot of people don't really think about it that way when you're thinking about yourself, your personal brand, what do you offer? You're very advanced with this. You're always doing content on LinkedIn. You're very in tune with how to position yourself. So I'd be curious, did you have any challenges overcoming, like focusing on the traditional job board job description versus, hold on, I need to be thinking about this way more strategically?
Yeah, that again, I kind of began there because I knew I wanted to have a remote working arrangement. I already knew that I wanted because we don't have an office in Rhode Island. The closest office to me is in Massachusetts. And I had no problem going there 2 days a week for about an hour commute. That was not an issue. That's what we talked about early on. I'm there maybe 2 times a month now. Um, I knew that was something that I wanted, and my sales leader was like, "Look, there's if you want to be here to work with other people, certainly come in. But some days I go in there and like, oh, what are you doing here?" So that was nice. That was a big part of it. Negotiating the work arrangement, um, the understanding how to position myself in the market, I think just came from understanding the market. Because I knew enough to know and been around a lot of other consultants in my career to know that they're playing checkers and I'm kind of playing a different form of chess in terms of strategy. So I talked really in those meetings when it came to negotiation about those chess moves, looking down the road 3 or 4 moves, knowing where the market's going. How are we going to solve for this? What is your strategy around underwriting with artificial intelligence? How are you dealing with orphan drugs, things that a lot of people are just kind of getting their arms around now. I've been looking at that for years. So having those conversations that I think trying to skate where the puck is going to be as opposed to where it is or the future of the business. I think that having been as an entrepreneur and understand if someone were out to be interviewing somebody else, if they're talking about the future of the business, that's what that's going to be have most interest for me as a business owner. So really understand, trying to hone in on where we are going to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now in employee benefits, as opposed to how are we going to run the day-to-day sales cycle. That was important for me.
That's awesome. And I think that for you, you've become like a top tier performer where you've got your life so optimized, where you're really paid for the value and the depth of your advising and less for the grind. You've gotten to a place in your career where you can command that kind of value because of the niche and the deep expertise that you've established that takes time to build, right? So, can you talk about that? Because I think a lot of folks are kind of nervous with AI and all the things where they're going to become irrelevant, whereas you have become more valuable. Can you speak about how that has happened for you?
Sure. That I'm glad you brought that up. AI is coming, whether we like it or not. It's already here.
Yeah.
So use it because if you use artificial intelligence the right way, you can become a huge weapon in whatever vertical you're in. And you not only in terms of your knowledge, but also use of your time. So I would work, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 10 years, where I was getting up. I was out the door at 5 in the morning, home at 8:30 at night, 5 days a week. And now I can be watching Monday Night Football and be working with ChatGPT and just kind of going down that rabbit hole so that I'm a week away, I'm having a conversation about something that no one's ever considered before. Just keep digging and digging and digging. I keep going back to that, but it's if you use artificial intelligence the right way, you could be an entrepreneur and probably have $1 billion company and one employee, if you really understand your vertical. I mean, I I don't I we laugh about that, but I think that's a reality for
Yeah,
people.
I mean, I guess with the way that AI can do the front end of sales now, it's phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure in your world they're probably already testing these things, right?
They are. I do think though that buyers still like that human
Oh
connection.
yeah, it's needed.
And and I it's they want sales is still relationships.
Hmm.
Business is, even if it's not sales, it's still relationships with your colleagues
Yeah.
and interpersonal relationships and communication. So there's while AI is taking jobs, I think it's taking jobs that where people are the jobs that it's taking. I don't think people are really. I could be wrong about this, but I think they can probably they're probably capable of a lot more if they embrace it than the job that they were in, and maybe they don't even like that job, right? So if you were to embrace AI and use it for something you're passionate about, you could probably improve your lifestyle significantly.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're leveraging AI to your advantage.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got subscriptions I think to 3 applications. And then we have our own one at the Baldwin Group that we use. It analyzes all internal documents
Hmm.
across all different regions. So I've been embracing that now. I think actually it was somebody that it was through a connection through Career Evolved that got me started. A gentleman that had done some production work for a movie, and I got where I got started with ChatGPT, and that might have been 3 months ago. It's like it's taken off for me. I'm using it.
That's
I'm
phenomenal.
using it so much, and I got my daughter using it. I mean, my daughter's 10
Oh,
years old and
wow.
using it to write stories about our dog and our cat, and they're like these adventure detect these they're these detectives, and she you should see her chats. They're really long, and then it's just kind of creating and making her laugh and all these little funny scenarios, getting to know our dog and our cat and their little quirks. And I think they should be teaching it in schools because if kids aren't using it now, what are they going to do when they graduate?
Absolutely. And I think there's so much that goes into your story as I kind of look back on it strategically. This I think breakthrough's been built by just the niche you focused on and the way that that became more valuable the longer you stuck with that same niche. But then your ability to learn how to sell and own your own personal brand is a big piece. So if you're talking to someone right now, they were like you, maybe they've been in one company for 20 years or they haven't entered the job market ever and they have to come into the toughest job market 2025 or
Yeah,
2026 even, what would you advice would you give them now that you're on the other side?
you can do it. Believe in yourself. Know your value. Uh, People are craving that personal connection and that service mindset that you need to have. People love to connect with people that are of that service mindset. Uh, and if you are connecting with someone who's hiring and understand their industry, understand your industry and your vertical in a way that is very unique. And if you don't use ChatGPT or some other application to really dig into what you like about your industry, you can be very valuable. And but translate that to how you connect with people because people buy on emotion, people hire on emotion. And that's a distinguishing factor that people can't put necessarily put their finger on, but they like to work with people that they like and or people that are interesting. So if having that connection with people is so important and they will buy what you're passionate about. So using whatever you like about your vertical or your industry and becoming really an expert at what you really like. And if your passion shines through in that interview, you're going to do very well. People are going to connect or they're going to refer you somewhere else that's maybe more fitting for you and an opportunity that you might not even knew existed.
Absolutely. I think that its mindset is everything, and you clearly came into this with a really solid focus. And I know it's not easy, but it can be done with that commitment and focus. So thank you for sharing your story and congratulations.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Again, always nice to see you and be part of your podcast. I'm a subscriber, so this is nice to be on the podcast.
Absolutely. We will definitely share soon and excited to have you.
Great.